Hello, everybody, and welcome to our final devotion for this week, but not our final session on Pentecost, because this Sunday at our church service, we'll also look at Pentecost, as it is Pentecost Sunday, and our focus will be on Peter's speech. Today, I want us to look at the first part of Acts chapter 2, verses 1 through to 13, when the Spirit of God was poured out on the people in the upper room. A flame came upon them. They felt like an earthquake and a violent blowing of the wind, and the Spirit of God came upon them. It's interesting that those features mimic what it must have felt like to be at Mount Sinai when God gave the law to the people of Israel. And Pentecost was a celebration of that. The Jewish people would meet in Jerusalem to celebrate the giving of the law, and especially the Ten Commandments. This time, Pentecost, God didn't just give the law, a law that, while it showed the will of God, kind of did not much more than just to reveal people's sin, because they could never remain faithful to God through obedience to the law. But now God has poured out His Spirit. He's put His law on our hearts, not just on stone. He's poured out His Spirit to all people. And the sign that came to the people in Jerusalem, the crowds, those who didn't know Jesus to this point, was that they could hear the gospel in their language. And I've often wondered what that was all about. What was this gift of tongues that was experienced on Pentecost Day? Because it doesn't seem like we get that today. I know friends years ago who went to the mission field, and someone particularly prayed for them that as they arrived at their new land where they were going to, that God would miraculously give them a gift of tongue and they would be able to speak and be understood and understand in that language. Well, God didn't answer that prayer. They had to struggle with language learning. And as I think of Kent and Robin preparing for the mission field, it's hard enough to raise support here in South Africa, but when they get to Southeast Asia, they're going to have to learn a language, and that won't be easy. It doesn't automatically come like it came on that first day. So what was going on? Well, I think what was going on is that God was giving a demonstration, was revealing what His plans and purposes are for the world. As He poured out His Spirit, so He gave the ability of all who were there to hear it, not just in a way that they could understand, because if Peter and the others had spoken in Greek, most of the people there would have understood, but that they heard it in their heart language. They heard it in their mother tongue. They heard it in the language of their culture, because God was about to address them and meet them as they were, in their cultural identity, in the language that they spoke and heard and understood from their heart. He was going to meet them, give them His Spirit, because Jesus died and rose again and ascended to the right hand of the throne of God, not as the ruler of Jerusalem, not as the ruler of the Jews, but as the ruler of the whole world. His kingdom is for everybody. His kingdom is for every nation, language, tribe, and tongue, and no one is excluded. God met with them that day in their heartfelt language, so that the world would know that the gospel was for everyone. And it remains that way today. It's interesting because at the Tower of Babel, God divided the world by changing everybody's language, so nobody could understand each other, and they went their separate ways. Now here at Pentecost, God has brought those cultures, those languages, those tribes, those nations, those differences all together through the gospel. And it's not like those differences don't exist anymore. Of course they exist. And the gospel now works in different cultures throughout the world. The gospel, the churches exist in different languages and in different tongues and in different nations all around the world. And so it's not like those differences have disappeared, but we've all been united in the gospel. And that which unites us is greater than that divides us. And we are united in our diversity. to worship God in the power of the Spirit because of what Jesus did. And so I hope that excites you. I hope that that fills you with awesome thrill. And I hope that it causes you to want to support and encourage people like the Dyers, going to the mission field to make sure the gospel gets to the ends of the earth. And I hope that it causes you to value and cherish that wonderful gift that God has given you as his disciple. And that is his Holy Spirit within you, his power within you, his cleansing forgiveness within you. And that you go and you make a difference, sharing that wonderful gift with everybody around there who hasn't got it yet. God bless you. See you next week.